There was a day when darkness believed it had finally won. The sun refused to shine. The earth trembled in horror. The King of Heaven hung bleeding between two criminals, gasping for breath, forsaken even by his closest friends. The religious leaders smiled. The Roman soldiers gambled for my clothes. Hell itself erupted in celebration. They thought they had defeated God by murdering him in human flesh. And in that moment, if you had been standing there at Golgotha, watching my blood pool in the dirt, watching my chest stop rising, watching them seal my body in a tomb, you would have said the same thing you are saying now. Evil has won. But 3 days later, I walked out of that grave, and every demon in the cosmos screamed in terror, because they finally understood the truth. I do not fight the way you fight. I do not win the way you win. I turned their greatest weapon, death itself, into my ultimate victory. And now, 2,000 years later, you look at the chaos of this world, and you think evil is winning. But you are making the same mistake they made. You are watching the Friday. You have forgotten that Sunday is coming. You are going to listen to these words because you are exhausted. Exhausted from trying to make sense of a world that feels like it is tearing itself apart. Exhausted from praying prayers that seem to dissolve into silence. Exhausted from being told to have faith while everything around you screams that faith is foolish. You see evil thriving, predators in positions of power, lies celebrated as truth, cruelty rewarded, innocence crushed, and you are haunted by a question that keeps you awake at night. If God is real and good, why does it feel like hell is winning? Here is the pain I am addressing today. You have been taught to measure my victory by the wrong metrics. You have been told that if God were real, the world would be peaceful, your life would be easy, and the wicked would be instantly punished. That is a myth. That is not the kingdom I came to establish. And because you are using the world's definition of victory, you live in perpetual despair, believing that either I do not exist, or I do not care, or I have lost control. But here is the truth that will shatter that lie. I already won. The victory is finished, and you are not waiting for me to defeat evil. You are learning to live inside the victory I already secured. The cross was not a tragic failure that the resurrection fixed. The cross was the weapon. Death was the doorway. Hell itself was plundered. And now, every ounce of suffering you see is not evidence of my defeat. It is the final, futile rebellion of an enemy who has already been stripped of his power. Let me take you back to a moment you were not present for, but one that changed everything. Not the garden you know from the beginning, but another garden, darker, colder, soaked in sorrow, Gethsemane. I knelt there in the dirt, and sweat fell from my brow like drops of blood. Do you know what I was doing in that moment? I was bearing the weight of every sin, every betrayal, every act of evil that had ever been committed, or ever would be. The full force of human darkness pressed down on me, and I could have stopped it. I could have called legions of angels, 12 legions, waiting for my command. I could have walked away, but I did not, because I knew something you are still learning. The only way to defeat evil is to absorb it, to let it spend all its fury, and then to rise, untouched by its poison. And so I let them come for me. I let Judas kiss my cheek with lips soaked in betrayal. I let Peter deny he knew me 3 times before the rooster crowed. I let the religious leaders accuse me of blasphemy, the very men who claimed to know the Father. I let the crowd scream for my blood, the same crowd that had welcomed me into Jerusalem with palm branches just days before. I let the soldiers drive iron through my wrists and feet. I let the weight of the world's sin crush the breath from my lungs. And in that moment, when I hung between heaven and earth, blood streaming down wood, darkness covering the land, hell itself erupted in celebration. The enemy thought he had won. He thought that by killing the author of life, he had extinguished the light forever. But what he did not understand, what he could never understand, is that I was not being defeated. I was setting a trap. Every ounce of evil, every demon, every power of darkness converged on that cross, pouring out their full wrath, believing they were destroying me. But I took it all. I absorbed the full force of sin's penalty. I drank the cup of divine wrath to the dregs, and when I said, "It is finished," I was not surrendering. I was declaring the end of evil's reign. Those 3 words were not a cry of defeat. They were a battle cry of victory. It is finished. The debt is paid. The prison doors are open. The keys to death and hell have changed hands. 3 days later, I walked out of that tomb, and the shock wave shattered every chain in the cosmos. Death had swallowed me, and I exploded out from the inside. Hell's gates buckled. The keys to death and Hades were ripped from the enemy's hands and placed in mine. And every demon that had celebrated my death now cowered in terror, because they finally realized the truth. I had not been overpowered. I had been strategic. I let evil exhaust itself on me, so that it would have no power left over you. Do you see what happened? I turned the enemy's greatest weapon into his ultimate defeat. Death, the final enemy, the thing that has held humanity hostage since the garden, was swallowed up in victory. And now, when you die in me, you are not dying. You are simply stepping through a doorway into fullness of life. There was a man who had been blind from birth. He had never seen a sunrise, never seen his mother's face, never seen the colors of the world. He spent his days begging by the roadside, and people walked past him as if he were invisible. And one day, my disciples asked me a question that reveals how you think about suffering. "Rabbi, who sinned, this man, or his parents, that he was born blind?" They assumed his suffering was punishment, evidence of divine judgment or cosmic failure. They thought that every hardship must be traced back to someone's sin. This is how most of you think. When tragedy strikes, you immediately ask, "What did I do wrong? Why is God punishing me? What did I do? Why is God punishing me?" And I said something that will reframe everything for you. Neither this man nor his parents sinned. This happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. Do you understand what I was saying? His blindness was not evidence of God's absence. It was the setup for God's glory. The years he spent in darkness were not wasted. They were not punishment. They were preparation for a miracle that would reveal who I am. Every day he sat in darkness. He was moving toward a moment of revelation. He did not know it. His parents did not know it. But I knew it, because I see the end from the beginning, and I waste nothing. And so I spat on the ground, made mud, and spread it on his eyes. I told him to go wash in the pool of Siloam, and when he did, he could see. Imagine that moment. Imagine opening your eyes for the very first time and seeing light, color, faces, the sky. Imagine the rush of overwhelming joy. But here is what is extraordinary. The religious leaders, the ones who claimed to know God, who spent their lives studying Scripture, were furious. They interrogated the man. They interrogated his parents. They tried to convince him that his healing was a sin, because I had done it on the Sabbath. They could not celebrate his freedom, because it did not fit their theology. They were so bound by their rules, their systems, their need to control God, that they could not recognize God standing right in front of them. And this is what I want you to see. The very people who claimed to represent God were blind to God's work right in front of them. The man who had been physically blind could now see, not just with his eyes, but with his spirit. And the religious leaders, who had physical sight, were spiritually blind. They could quote Scripture but could not recognize the author of Scripture. They could recite the law but could not recognize the lawgiver. This is what is happening right now in your world. You look at the chaos, the suffering, the evil, and you think it is evidence that I have lost control. But what if I told you that every ounce of darkness you see is being used to reveal something glorious? What if I told you that the brokenness of this world is not the absence of my power, but the canvas on which my power is being displayed? You think evil is winning because you are looking at the mud, but I am making sight. You think the world is falling apart, but I am putting it back together in a way you cannot yet perceive. The blind man's story did not end with his healing. He was thrown out of the synagogue. He was rejected by the religious community. He lost his place, his identity, his belonging, and then I found him again. I asked him, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" And he said, "Who is he, Lord, that I may believe in him?" And I said, "You have seen him, and he is the one speaking to you." And he worshipped me. Do you see the journey? He went from physical blindness to physical sight to spiritual sight to worship. And that is the journey I am inviting you on today. Stop looking at the world with natural eyes and asking why I am not fixing everything. Start looking at the world with spiritual eyes and asking, "What are you doing, Lord, that I cannot yet see?" And one day, maybe not today, maybe not in your lifetime, but one day, you will stand in eternity, and you will see what I have been doing all along, and you will weep, not because of the suffering, but because you will finally understand that not one moment was wasted. Every tear you cried, every injustice you witnessed, every prayer that seemed to go unanswered, it was all part of a victory so vast, so intricate, so beautiful, that you will spend eternity marveling at how I wove it all together. You will see the blind man and understand that his 40 years of darkness were not cruelty. They were the stage on which my glory would shine. You will see the cross and understand that the worst day in human history was actually the best day, because it was the day I defeated death itself. I once told a parable that most people misunderstand. I said the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while everyone was sleeping, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat. And when the plants sprouted, the weeds appeared alongside the wheat. The servants came to the master and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" And the master replied, "An enemy did this." The servants asked, "Do you want us to go and pull up the weeds?" But the master said, "No, because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time I will tell the harvesters, 'First, collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn.'" Do you see what I was teaching? Good and evil are growing together in this world, and that is by design. Not because I lack the power to destroy evil now, but because the harvest is not yet complete. There are still hearts that need time to soften. There are still souls that need time to turn. There are still people who look like weeds today, but will become wheat tomorrow. You want me to rip out every thread of darkness right now. But if I did, I would destroy some of you in the process. Because the line between good and evil does not run between people. It runs through every human heart. You are not as righteous as you think, and the people you call evil are not as far from redemption as you believe. I have watched men who looked like wheat become weeds, and I have watched weeds transform into wheat. Saul of Tarsus was a weed if there ever was one, breathing out murderous threats against my followers, dragging them from their homes, watching with approval as they were stoned to death. If you had been there, you would have prayed for me to destroy him. But I saw what he would become. I saw Paul the Apostle, the man who would write half of the New Testament, the man who would plant churches across the known world, the man who would say, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me." The weed became wheat, and so I wait, not out of weakness, but out of mercy. But here is what you need to understand. The harvest is coming. There will be a day when I return, not as a suffering servant, but as a reigning king. And on that day, every weed will be gathered, Every lie will be exposed. Every act of evil will be judged. And every tear will be wiped away. Justice will come, not human justice, which is slow and corrupt, but divine justice, which is perfect and final. Every child who was abused will see their abuser face judgment. Every widow who was cheated will see restitution. Every innocent person who was murdered will see vindication. Every lie will be dragged into the light. Every secret will be revealed, and every knee will bow, and every tongue will confess that I am Lord. And until that day, your job is not to be the harvester. Your job is to be the wheat, to grow in the light of my truth, to produce the fruit of my spirit, to let your roots go deep into the soil of my love. Because the weeds are not your enemy. Death is not your enemy. Hell is not your enemy. The only enemy you have left is the lie that I have not already won. The enemy wants you to spend your life in despair, staring at the weeds, convinced that the field is doomed. But I am telling you, the field is mine, the harvest is mine, the victory is mine, and you are not waiting for the end of the story. You are living inside the victory that has already been written. Now let me teach you something about the nature of darkness. You think evil is winning because it is loud. It dominates the news. It trends on social media. It seems to be everywhere, spreading like wildfire. But I need you to understand something about the nature of darkness. Darkness only screams when it is losing. Think about a candle in a room. When you light it, the darkness does not fight back. It simply retreats. Darkness has no power of its own. It is merely the absence of light. And the moment light appears, darkness is gone. It does not resist. It does not strategize. It just vanishes. But what happens when darkness knows it is about to be flooded with light? What happens when the enemy knows his time is short? He rages. He causes chaos. He amplifies fear. He makes himself appear bigger, louder, more powerful than he actually is. This is what you are witnessing in your world right now. In the book of Revelation, it is written, "The devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short." Did you catch that? His time is short. He is not ascending. He is descending. He is not gaining ground. He is losing it. And in his fury, he is trying to take as many people down with him as possible. Think about a wounded animal. When an animal is healthy and strong, it moves with confidence. It does not need to make noise. But when an animal is wounded, dying, cornered, it becomes vicious. It lashes out. It roars. It tries to appear more dangerous than it is. This is what the enemy is doing right now. He is a wounded animal, thrashing in his death throes. And yes, a wounded animal is dangerous. Yes, people are getting hurt, but do not mistake his thrashing for strength. It is desperation. But here is the paradox you must grasp. The louder evil becomes, the closer its end is. When you see violence surging, lies multiplying, hatred spreading, you are not seeing the rise of a dark empire. You are seeing its final, desperate convulsion. I know this is hard to believe when you are standing in the middle of the chaos. I know it feels overwhelming. But remember, I have already seen the end of the story. I have already read the last page. And I am telling you, with all the authority of heaven and earth, evil has already lost. It is just taking a long time to fall. Imagine a tree that has been cut down. The moment the axe severs the trunk, the tree is dead. But it does not fall immediately. It stands there for a moment, looking strong, looking alive. The leaves are still green. The branches are still full. But it is already dead. It just has not hit the ground yet. That is where the enemy is right now. I severed his power at the cross. I cut him down at the resurrection. He is already dead. He just has not hit the ground yet. And in the time between the cut and the fall, he is doing everything he can to make you think he is still alive, still powerful, still winning. The reason you do not understand my victory is because I do not win the way you win. You win by overpowering your enemy. I win by letting my enemy overpower me, and then rising from the dead. You win by destroying your opponents. I win by loving them and giving them a chance to surrender. This is what I meant when I said, whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. This is what I meant when I said, the last will be first, and the first will be last. This is what I meant when I said, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. My kingdom operates by a completely different set of rules than the world's kingdom. In the world, power is measured by wealth, influence, control. In my kingdom, power is measured by humility, service, love. In the world, victory is measured by who is left standing. In my kingdom, victory is measured by who is willing to kneel, and this is why the cross is the ultimate symbol of my victory. To the world, the cross is foolishness, it is weakness, it is defeat. But to those who understand, the cross is the power of God, because on that cross, I absorbed the full force of evil, and it could not destroy me. I let sin, death, and hell do their worst, and then I rose again, untouched, unstoppable, victorious. This is the victory I am inviting you into. Not a victory where you crush your enemies, but a victory where you love them. Not a victory where you avoid suffering, but a victory where you suffer redemptively, knowing that every ounce of pain you endure in faithfulness to me is being woven into a glory you cannot yet see. This is why I told you to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Not because I am asking you to be a doormat, but because I am inviting you to fight the way I fight, with love, with forgiveness, with grace. When someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. When someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. When someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt. This sounds like weakness to the world, but it is actually the most powerful thing you can do, because when you respond to evil with good, you expose the evil for what it is. You reveal its emptiness. You show that it has no power over you. The enemy wants you to respond to hatred with hatred, to violence with violence, to lies with lies. You join his kingdom. You fight on his terms. But when you respond to evil with love, you are fighting on my terms. And on my terms, you cannot lose. Here is the shift I need you to make. Stop waiting for me to win. I already won. Start living like it. Most of you live as if the outcome is still in doubt, as if the final battle is yet to be fought, as if there is still a chance that evil might prevail. But that is not reality. That is fear masquerading as prudence. The reality is this: I have already defeated sin. I have already conquered death. I have already disarmed the powers of darkness. And I have given you authority to live in that victory right now. When I rose from the dead, I did not just secure a future victory. I inaugurated a present kingdom. I did not just promise that one day evil would be gone. I declared that evil has already been dethroned, and now my followers have the authority to enforce that victory in every place they set foot. This is what I meant when I said, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. This is what I meant when I said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations. I did not send you out as victims. I sent you out as ambassadors of a victorious king. I did not tell you to hide and wait for rescue. I told you to advance, to occupy, to bring the reality of my kingdom into every dark corner of the earth. But you cannot do this if you are still living in fear. You cannot do this if you still believe evil is winning, because your beliefs shape your behavior. If you believe you are losing, you will live defensively. You will build walls. You will withdraw. You will protect what little you have left. But if you believe you have already won, you will live offensively, not with aggression, but with bold, confident, compassionate love. You will advance. You will take ground. You will speak truth. You will heal the sick. You will cast out demons. You will make disciples, because that is what victorious people do. One of the greatest lies the enemy has planted in your mind is this: if God were real and good, you would not suffer. This lie has shipwrecked more faith than any other, but let me tell you the truth. Suffering is not the absence of my presence. It is often the mark of my presence. Because I do not call you to comfort. I call you to crucifixion, not literal death, but the daily death of your old self, your pride, your need to control, your demand that life be easy. I told you plainly, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Did you hear that? I did not promise you a trouble-free life. I promised you victory in the midst of trouble. And this is what most people miss. The glory of my resurrection is only fully understood in light of the horror of my crucifixion. You cannot have Easter without Friday. You cannot have the empty tomb without the bloody cross. And you cannot have resurrection power in your life if you are not willing to embrace the process of death. This is why I said, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Death is not the opposite of life in my kingdom. Death is the pathway to greater life. So when you face suffering, when you lose your job, when your marriage falls apart, when sickness ravages your body, when injustice crushes your spirit, do not interpret it as evidence that I have abandoned you. Interpret it as evidence that you are being conformed to my image, because I was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, and if you are going to reign with me, you must first suffer with me. But here is the promise. The suffering is temporary. The glory is eternal. What you are enduring now is producing in you an eternal weight of glory that far outweighs all your affliction. And one day, when you see me face to face, every tear will make sense, every loss will be redeemed, every wound will be healed, and you will realize that the suffering was not punishment. It was preparation. Let me tell you what the enemy is doing right now. He knows he has already lost. He has read the end of the book. He knows that in the end, I win, and he is cast into the lake of fire. So what does he do? He lies. He deceives. He distorts. He convinces you that what is true is false, and what is false is true. This is why I called him the father of lies and a murderer from the beginning. His power is not in his strength. I stripped him of that at the cross. His power is in his ability to make you believe a lie. And the greatest lie he is selling right now is this: evil is winning. God has lost control. You are on your own. If he can get you to believe that lie, he does not need to attack you. You will destroy yourself. You will live in fear. And you will spend your entire life in defeat, even though I have already given you the victory. But here is the antidote to his deception. Truth. My word is truth. My spirit is truth. And when you anchor yourself in truth, no lie can move you. This is why I said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Not positive thinking, not motivational speeches. Truth, the objective, unchanging, eternal reality of who I am, what I have done, and what I have promised. And the truth is this: I am seated at the right hand of the Father. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Every knee will bow, and every tongue will confess that I am Lord. The enemy is a defeated foe, and you, beloved, are more than a conqueror through me. So stop letting the news define your reality. Stop letting circumstances dictate your faith. Stop letting fear write the narrative of your life. Instead, let my word define what is real. Let my promises shape your expectations. Let my victory become the lens through which you see everything else. Now let me give you some practical steps. The first step to living in victory is to identify the lies you have been believing, because you cannot fight what you cannot see. So I want you to stop right now and ask yourself, what am I believing about God, about evil, about my life, that is making me feel defeated? Maybe you believe, God has abandoned me. My prayers don't work. Evil is too strong. I am beyond redemption. The world is hopeless. Write those lies down. Name them. Drag them into the light. Because as long as they remain hidden in your subconscious, they will control you. And then, for each lie, I want you to replace it with truth. Not your opinion, not your feelings. My word. God has abandoned me becomes, I will never leave you nor forsake you. My prayers don't work becomes, the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Evil is too strong becomes, greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. I am beyond redemption becomes, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. The new has come. The world is hopeless becomes, I have overcome the world. This is not self-help. This is spiritual warfare, because the battle is not in your circumstances. The battle is in your mind, and the weapon is truth. Most of you pray from a place of lack. You pray as beggars, as victims, as people who are powerless and desperate. But I need you to start praying from a place of authority, because you are not a beggar. You are a child of the King. You are not a victim. You are a co-heir with Christ. You are not powerless. You are filled with the same Spirit that raised me from the dead. So instead of praying, God, please fix this mess, pray, Father, thank you that you have already secured the victory. Show me how to walk in it. Instead of praying, God, why is evil winning? Pray, Father, open my eyes to see what you are doing, even in the midst of chaos. Instead of praying, God, I am so afraid. Pray, Father, you have not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. I choose to stand in your victory. Do you see the difference? One prayer is rooted in fear, the other is rooted in faith. One prayer sees me as distant and uninvolved, the other sees me as present and victorious. And when you pray from victory, everything shifts. Your perspective shifts. Your emotions shift. Your behavior shifts. Because you stop living as one who is waiting to be rescued, and you start living as one who is already free. You cannot change the world by obsessing over how broken it is. You cannot defeat darkness by staring at it. You defeat darkness by becoming light. And so I am giving you a simple, practical assignment. For the next 7 days, limit your news consumption to 10 minutes a day, and instead, spend at least 10 minutes a day doing something that brings light into the world. Call a friend who is lonely. Encourage someone who is struggling. Volunteer at a shelter. Write a letter of gratitude. Forgive someone who hurt you. Pray for your enemy. Give generously to someone in need. Stop being a passive consumer of darkness. Start being an active dispenser of light. Because here is the secret. The world does not change when you post an angry comment on social media. The world changes when you embody the love, grace, and truth of Jesus Christ in your everyday life. You are not called to fix everything. You are called to be faithful in your small corner of the world. And when millions of my followers do that simultaneously, the cumulative effect is unstoppable. So stop waiting for someone else to be the hero. You are the hero. You are the light. You are the salt. You are the city on a hill. And the world is watching. I want to give you a declaration. A truth that you can speak over yourself every single day until it becomes woven into the fabric of your soul. Here it is. I am not waiting for victory. I am living inside the victory Jesus has already won. Sin has no power over me. Death has no sting. Hell has no claim. I am a child of the risen King, filled with his Spirit, walking in his authority. The enemy has been defeated. The battle is finished. And I choose to live today as one who is already free. Say that out loud right now. Say it when you wake up in the morning. Say it when fear grips your heart. Say it when the news overwhelms you. Say it when doubt whispers that God has lost control. Because words have power. Not magical power, but the power to rewire your mind, to shift your focus, to anchor your soul in truth. And the more you speak this truth, the more you will believe it. And the more you believe it, the more you will live it. And the more you live it, the more you will experience the freedom I died to give you. Here is the final practice, and it is the most important. Train your eyes to see where I am moving, not just where the enemy is attacking, because the enemy is loud. He dominates headlines. He captures attention. But I am quiet. I work in whispers. I move in the margins. I show up in acts of love that no one applauds. So start keeping a victory journal. Every day, write down one place where you saw me at work. Maybe it was a stranger who showed you kindness. Maybe it was a prayer that was answered. Maybe it was a moment of peace in the midst of chaos. Maybe it was a small act of courage that went unnoticed by the world but was celebrated in heaven. At first, this will feel forced. You have trained yourself to see what is wrong. But over time, as you intentionally look for what is right, you will begin to see that I am everywhere. I am in the nurse who stayed late to comfort a dying patient. I am in the teacher who believes in a struggling student. I am in the father who chooses patience over anger. I am in the recovering addict who says no to temptation one more day. Victory is not always loud. Victory is often quiet, small, hidden, but it is real, and it is happening all around you. So stop letting the 1% of the world that is broken convince you that the 99% is lost. Start seeing the bigger picture. Start seeing what I see, and you will realize, I am not losing. I am winning. And you are part of that victory. Let me bring this full circle. You came into this message feeling overwhelmed, maybe even hopeless. You have been watching the news, scrolling through your phone, seeing evil spread like wildfire, and you have been asking the same question that haunted my disciples 2,000 years ago. Lord, are you going to restore the kingdom now? And just like I told them, I am telling you, it is not for you to know the times or the dates. It is for you to be my witness, empowered by my Spirit, carrying my victory into every dark place you encounter. You are not a spectator in a cosmic drama, waiting to see who wins. You are a participant in a victory that has already been secured. The tomb is empty. The keys are in my hands. The enemy is defeated. And now you have a choice. Will you live like it? Will you stop letting fear write your story? Will you stop letting the news define your reality? Will you stop living as a victim and start living as a conqueror? Because here is the truth I need you to carry with you. You are not broken. You have just been believing a lie. The lie that says you are powerless, that says evil is winning, that says I am distant or defeated. But I am not distant. I am right here, speaking to you, calling you out of fear and into faith. I am not defeated. I am victorious. And I am inviting you to walk in the same victory that raised me from the dead. So here is your mantra. Beloved, speak it over yourself every single day. I am loved by the risen King. I am filled with his Spirit. I am walking in his victory. Evil may rage, but it has already lost, and I will not be moved. Say it until you believe it. Believe it until you live it. Live it until the world around you starts to change. And if this message resonated with you, if you felt something shift inside your spirit, I want you to do something for me. Hit the like button so this message can reach others who are drowning in despair. Leave a comment sharing one truth that set you free today. And subscribe, because I am not done speaking truth into your life. There is more to say, more to reveal, more victory to walk in. But for now, go in peace. Not the peace the world gives, which depends on circumstances, but my peace, the peace that surpasses understanding, the peace that guards your heart even in the midst of the storm. You are mine, you are free, you are victorious, and evil has already lost. Now go live like it.